So Alma went to high school in.
Yeah, she went, and I think she's up to this point was the only one because my older brother was working out on a farm. My sister was working on a farm. They're just as hired hands, and my older brother Albert. So 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 they all had left, but they only had the 8th grade
Okay.
education also,
Okay. Interesting.
and so when I worked then, of course that was 1934, and that's during the Depression. So that's when Dad lost the farm. He couldn't pay for it.
Okay.
And so he had an auction and sold off all the machinery and the cattle and all the livestock and sold what he could, and then auctioned off the rest and bought a small home in St. Clair. And so we moved to St. Clair, and there, of course, the younger from I on down were still at home,
Right.
all the kids, and so it was a house full because it had one bedroom downstairs, and then the upstairs it was only a story and a half, so the upstairs was only 4-foot walls on the side, and then it peeked out, and so. One day we came home from church, and he said, one of the farmers need help. And so I told him that, well, you could go and help. So I moved in with these farmers. You became part of their family.
Did you know them from before? Or
No, I didn't know.
Oh.
Well, probably through church. I had, because they went to the same church, yeah.
Okay.
And so for $1 a day, and but throughout, well, there's a long story there, but I worked there for the summer, and then in the winter, of course, they had no work, so then I'd move back home, and so I would work for each year for several different farms that I would move in with and,
Right.
and live with them and work. And so then our brother-in-law's parents had a large farm, 380 acres, that was large then.
Yeah.
And so they needed help because their younger son was the same age as I, had surgery on his shoulder and he couldn't work, so I started working there. And there I worked summer and winter for $1 a day. But I never collected any money because it all went to the family for a living.
Right.
And
Was that same thing happening with your siblings, where they were working other places and the money kind of came back to the family?
It not so much because the gals, they more or less kept their own money. Although my brother and sister, after or before the war, there was what did they call it? CC? Not CC. It was
Civilian Conservation Corps.
yeah. They worked. They could work for them, and they would do things around town or whatever it was. They would just jobs here and there that they would, and they would get paid. And I'm not sure of the pay of them. I don't know if they had to contribute or not.
So was that what fed the family? Was your pay?
Well,
and
my dad did do some. He painted pictures and he sold some pictures, and then he would work for my brother-in-law Ed and Oscar for busy seasons for money, and so they had very little income.
okay.
And so now Oscar, he had a hatchery,
Yeah.
and he raised turkeys, and then he'd always raise extra ducks and chickens and whatever, and he was ornery as could be, but he had a heart as good as gold, and he would.
And Oscar was your brother-in-law married
He was a brother-in-law from my oldest sister.
Who was
Edna.
that? Edna, okay.
Yeah, Edna's.
Yeah, okay.
And so off and on, the family at different times would work there. Now in the fall of the year, he would raise turkeys, but he would dress them out
Okay.
himself and haul them to Chicago for sale. Well, they would have at the time for dressing it out, he had a lot of people to dress out the turkeys, because he had about, well, I don't know, 1,000 or two.
Okay.
And so that, but otherwise, yeah, he and Edna, they hauled up eggs and meat a lot.
Okay. John, I'm going to jump a little bit here, up to like the early 40s. Pearl Harbor occurred on December 7th, 41. I mean, do you recall that date? Do you
yes.
recall the specifics of where you were, what you were doing?
When I became 21, a friend of mine and I decided to go west. So he and I took off for California, and my brother Lawrence lived in Mendota, California, so we went there, and we were going to find work. So Lawrence had a small house. He was married and had one child. He had a small house in Mendota, and it was just a shack. In fact, it was built up about 18 inches off of the ground, because when the heavy rains came, it would flood the whole town. so it was just all bare underneath.
Right.
And he had no running water in the house either. It was very crude. And but I found a job working at the place he was working. It was a machine shop, and they contracted about 100 miles of underground crude oil pipes that went from Coalinga to Oakland.
Okay.
And every 25 miles there was another pumping station to keep the oil moving, because it was crude oil. And so I got a job with that. Well, Edison didn't find anything, so he headed back to Minnesota to these folks. Well, then the Pearl Harbor came. And I remember the day, because I didn't hear it on the news because we had no radio at Lawrence's.
Right.
But we got to work, and then they said, well, Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor. And so then of course, after a week or so, well, I had to register for a draft. And so in the meantime, well, they had set up surveillance cabin outside of town, and two people from the area there would stay up all night and listen if there was any aircraft. And they would try to determine the direction and the size, and then you could call in to keep anything tracked. Well, this went on until probably this was December, so probably in January. And then I knew, because my classification was 1A, and I knew that I had nothing that would defer me. So I decided to leave from St. Clair, or go home, instead of leaving from California. So I went on a day, and the bus station was in the hotel, and also the post office was in the little old hotel there in town. So I went down there to catch the bus, and the mail had come in, and I looked to see if there was any mail. Well, there was a letter from the Selected Service
Right.
to me. And I knew what it was, so I shoved it back in the box. Because I had already gone to the draft board and explained what I was going to do, and they